Good afternoon. Great to see everyone here. This reminds me of the very first solar eclipse workshop, which was held way back in 2012 in Washington, D.C. I see a couple of faces that were here. Can you raise your hands if you were at the 2012, the very first solar eclipse task force in 2012? I can't believe I was the only one that was there. Is it true? Is it absolutely true? Well, anyway, I think it's appropriate to quickly thank four essential people that have made these 11 years of workshops possible. And they are Dr. Shadia Habal, Dr. Rick Feinberg, Dr. Angela Speck, and Deb Ross. So please, let's give us a hand to all four of them and thank them for many, many hours of their work. Thank you. Okay, so in 2017, I was both foolish and brave enough to attempt the task of predicting how many people I expected to come to the eclipse. And I've repeated this exercise for 2024. Previously, earlier this year, I had published some numbers on my website, and you'll find them on various pages through the website with my predictions for 2024. But I decided that it was important to revisit those numbers. And the reason why it was important is if you look at the map here, and if you looked at the weather odds, to be honest, the weather odds are much better in this part of the country than way up here in this part of the country. So that I felt that I had to re-examine the estimates. And so where's my clicker? Is this? How do I use this?
Well, you're only using the same thing.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I was pressing the wrong button. Okay, so first, before I get to the revised numbers, I'm going to review several things. Over a month ago, we have an email list of over 30,000 people that receive our emails from greatamericaneclipse.com. And one of the emails that we sent out was a survey asking the people who follow us closely on our website where they intend to go. The expected answer, but it's still remarkable, is that Texas got the vast lion's share of the visitation. 54% of our respondents said they were going to Texas, traveling to Texas for the eclipse. And I will just gloss over these numbers because you will be able to examine these on the PDF that you will receive after the conference, but I break it down by state. But admittedly, this is not a scientific poll because this is a self-selecting audience. So keep that in mind. And another thing I decide to look at is on our website, we sell state maps of all the states in the eclipse path. And I looked at the numbers of sales that we made for each of those state maps. Again, Texas comes out to just over 53%, but this is a self-selecting audience. Google searches. Now, this comes a little more closely, I think, to the general public and not so much the self-selecting eclipse chasers. This is Google searches of eclipses by state. And what I did very specifically was I put them in quote marks because if you just do New York eclipse, then that search will get mushed with a lot of searches just on New York and a lot of searches just on eclipse. So if you put it in quotes like that, then it makes it more specific. And these are the numbers that I got from that analysis. So the main areas of interest our Texas, but also Indiana through New York State get a pretty fair amount of interest nationally as well. And we also have state pages. We have a page for each of the state. This is a visitation number. 70% of all the people who visit a state page on our website go to the Texas. So how do we process and how do we handle this information? Well, I think the reason why this is so is because the biggest factor in eclipse visitation is weather. Just like in real estate, the three most important properties are location, location, location. For eclipse chasers, it's weather, weather, weather. That's what we obsess about. And that we can see that reflected in the survey numbers. But the reality check, most of the information I've given so far is for people like us, people who are already aware, people who are astronomy buffs and so forth, but we're trying to reach the general public. So we have to take those numbers of over 50% for Texas or 70% or whatever with a little bit of a grain of salt. And how I look at it is I try and imagine an imaginary person, say in New York City, and the closest area to them is the Great Lakes region, Rochester and that area up there. So out of a population of interested people in New York City, how many will go to Rochester or that area? And how many will get on a plane and fly down to Dallas or someplace? And I think that with the general public, that number is going to be somewhat low. And I also think on the flip side of that, I think that there are going to be places with the potential for an outsized audience of people coming to see the eclipse. In 2017, Wyoming was that state. The state population tripled on eclipse day, but it was a low population base to begin with. But still, it was somewhat predictable in advance that Wyoming would be the it state for that eclipse. I think Texas obviously is a state for that. Another big factor is that 12 million Texans live inside the path of totality. That's a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Because I think something on the order of 10% of those households in Texas will have friends or relatives come visit them from out of state. So that gives you a rough indication of the potential eclipse visitation. And so my feeling is, going back to my exercise of the imaginary group of people in New York City, I think somewhere between 4 out of 5 or 9 out of 10 will still go to the local area, but some fraction will fly down to Texas or someplace like that. And button's not working. Okay, so synthesizing all the information and incorporating the fact that most people will still go to the closest location on the eclipse path, I came up with these adjustment factors to the eclipse visitation numbers that I published before.
Hey, babe.
And I estimate that Texas will get about 50% more visitors than my raw model calculated. And I won't go into the details of the model.
How big is that?
You can find it on the website. And then obviously,
No, don't give me like.
the weather
Give me
prospects
the
are
real
dim
dimensions.
up in the far
Okay.
eastern states, New Hampshire,
Okay, do that,
Vermont, and
please.
Maine.
All right.
So they accordingly get
All right,
us lower
bye-bye.
factor. And the result of all of this is, that's not it. Okay. Oh, other way. Okay, so these are my new computed numbers for total expected eclipse visitation. To just recap the numbers, because the numbers are small, but you will get all these on your PDF. I estimate over 1 million, potentially over 1 million people will visit Texas for the eclipse. And you can see these numbers. One thing to keep in mind about these numbers is I've seen several estimates that the economic impact of a visitor to the path of the eclipse is somewhere between $200 and $300 per day per visitor. So you can take these numbers and do the math and get a rough estimate of what the potential economic impact in your community is. It's big. And then a closing thought is I'm adapting the same model that I did in 2017, and I made what I think is a common sense and realistic adjustment to drive these, but my intuition is that these numbers are still low. I think they're still conservative, and I think maybe 1 or 2 places may surpass them. But it's better to be a little bit conservative. Thank you.